What we need to do is a preface of the Jawbreakers review, point out a few basic facts. In our previously recorded review, we didn't mention every last thing that the comic botches, because if we did, the review would be several hours long, and reading it was already enough of a waste of our time. The comic was incompetent on its face, and is evident to any honest person, so to honest people we wouldn't need to further convince, and dishonest people are not capable of listening to facts. That's why they like Richard C. Meyer, because they're dishonest people. One of the many stupid things we skipped over was the literal magical Negro who casts spells. Way to play in the SJW's hands with that one, dick. In a subversion of expectations, straight out of Star Wars The Last Jedi, the magical Negro works for a telecom company. This has no bearing on the plot. It's just a useless throwaway joke that is straight out of the Joss Whedon, Brian Michael Bendis school of audience subversion expectation jokes. Our prophecy for what happens next to Richard C. Meyer: his next campaign will only make half as much money at most, which will fulfill the whole issue 2 drop-off effect that anyone familiar and honest about the comics industry knows. When and if Jawbreakers 2 does come out, which it might not, it will not even be a whimper of a release. It will be just a small puff of dust, unnoticed by any comic book audience, and then just forgotten the next day. And the same thing is going to happen to Cyberfrog, except that there's a chance that Cyberfrog will actually never come out. Fucking Richard is hoping he'll get some of that sweet extra cash by putting in product placement.
On top of the $100,000 they fucking managed to fucking bilk out of stupid people.
It was that was for fucking Ironsides. He got $500,000 for fucking Jawbreakers.
Holy shit, and he doesn't even want to do better?
He doesn't even want to do good comics, and his fans make excuses for why his comics aren't good by saying they're not supposed to be good. Which...
Really? Then are we getting a refund?
Yeah, so, I mean, we should get we didn't even give him money, and we should get a refund just for reading this piece of shit. If you're not even going to make a good comic, retard prime Richard C. Meyer reviews... he doesn't review, he does roasts. Because if he reviewed comics, he would actually have something to say about them aside from, this is stupid. That's really all he says. He doesn't really have any insights. He just, pretends to joke, and then people give him the Daily Show excuse by saying, hey, he's just a comedian. He doesn't need to be making good comics. So why are you giving him $500,000 to make comics then? It's really embarrassing. Anyways, so it's not even a good imitation of Joss Whedon stuff. It's a derivative of a derivative of a derivative. That's ultimately what Comicsgate is aiming for, is imitations and not innovation. If you want innovation, at this point, there's only 2 places to get it from, either Menger or us. Now, let's get to our actual review of Jawbreakers Lost Interest, as you called it.
It sucks. Well, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and donate to our Patreon.
Super has probably the sexiest sex scene I've ever seen in any movie ever.
Stop it! No! Get off of this! No!
I know, let's get that guy who made that movie where Ellen Page rapes Rainn Wilson.
The 90s are back with a vengeance, so comics could have gone anywhere.
They
could have gone anywhere at any time, and they chose the 90s.
The point right before they failed.
So if you leave, you can go anywhere, anytime.
All right, I know exactly where I want to go. To the mountaintop on Viridian 3, just before Solon destroyed the star. I have to stop him.
So instead of saying, let's go back a couple days, and then I could punch Sauron in the 10 forward lounge, or let's go back a week and never meet Sauron. He doesn't do that.
You can go anywhere, anytime.
All right, I know exactly where I want to go. To the mountaintop on Viridian 3, just before Solon destroyed the star. I have to stop him.
The 90s are back with a vengeance. Steven Seagal. Full frontal nudity.
No, because that would actually be cool still. Think about the gayest part of the 90s. That's what's back with a vengeance.
Yeah, well, is it the English Patient?
Yes.
Milli Vanilli's reunion tour.
yes, that's exactly what this is. It's the Milli Vanilli reunion tour.
It's not even Milli Vanilli on stage, it's just the tape player. It's not even Milli.
We did not pay for this comic. We pirated illegally, and there's nothing you can do about it, and also it still wasn't worth the price tag of 0.
I need to be paid. If anything, Richard C. Meyer should be paying me money.
Fuck that, I'm getting paid, motherfucker.
In fact, even people who are on his side said that this is worse than the SJW comics that he roasts. He's roasting comics on his YouTube channel. Who gives a shit, faggot?
I have a critical allergy to faggy writing, and faggy writing is what the SJW crowd produces. And this guy just produces dumb writing. It's not that his comic is worse, it's just that he's incompetent, and he needs to learn all sorts of things about how to paste dialogue. I mean, he's already admitted to not being very good at it, and that's fine. But then why is he the one producing a comic here, I guess?
Well, yeah, the key
because
thing
he was the one who was able to put together the Kickstarter.
I was thinking...
He got $500,000 for this comic, too.
$500,000 to make this shit. And I was thinking, even if he just decided to put this together for fun, for like his own edification, he really shouldn't have. He needed to step back and put in the work and say, okay, I need to find a good writer. I need to find the best writer I can to give the best story, because this is the beginning of the whole Comicsgate. This is the beginning of my brand. This is a new thing I'm doing.
In fact, he has a logo on the cover. You can see the logo for his comics imprint is called Splato Comics, which is one of the shittiest. One of the most fly-by-night titles you can imagine for a comics company. It's really embarrassing.
It comes from Splato Delgato. If he had called his comic imprint Delgado or something, it would be like, well, that sounds kind of classy and cool.
This comic is worse than the SJW comics because at least those were unintentionally funny in how bizarre. Like, on the 4chan Storytime...
Yeah, you can have a great laugh reading those.
Yeah, somebody on the 4chan Storytime thread for Jawbreakers Lost Souls said that they would eagerly anticipate the new issues of the America Chavez comic because it was such a fucking bizarre train wreck that makes you wonder how the biggest publisher in comics, American comics, even got this produced, and what the fuck were they thinking? Whereas Jawbreakers, on the other hand, doesn't have any of that appeal. It's just boring. In a way, there's nothing worse than a boring comic. It starts off with a cover, and the cover sucks, but mainly because, as you point out here, there's just an ape on the cover, which I don't think was done intentionally. And by intentionally, I mean they didn't understand that putting apes on the cover is considered a long played out joke that was no longer funny decades ago.
To him, it's not a joke. It's like, we need to make sure that this does as good as possible. And we know that apes sell because that it was like a one-off DC comic from the 30s had an ape on the cover and sold inexplicably well, so they put apes on the covers.
Yeah, they made fun of this on a Red Letter Media episode. They made fun of this. Before this comic even existed, they made fun of this comic on Red Letter Media episode.
You know in the comics there's a kryptonite ape? There's an ape that shoots out kryptonite beams from his eyes.
Okay.
Because apparently at some point in DC's history, there was an issue of a comic with an ape on the cover that sold unusually well for no good reason. And there was a mandate that they had to have more apes. This is a fact.
I really want to see that memo. We need more apes.
And then how they made ape characters, like they made a kryptonite ape that shoots kryptonite beams out of his eyes.
They made 1 trillion ape characters, and they never got the sales back again, but they still ended up doing that to the point where...
And they kept the characters.
The Flash TV show has Gorilla Grodd as a fucking villain. It's a psychic ape. It's a psychic gorilla. And it's like a serious threat, and they go to the Gorilla Grodd alternate dimension planet country in Africa.
It's like the fucking overdrift dimension, the D dimension, where it's impossible to drive straight.
He took the ultimate drift into another dimension. Fairy tales and magic, old man.
Except more stupid.
And for some reason, he decided to do that here. I'm not making this up.
Yeah, unironically, without any sense of irony or intelligence. I mean, because
it's an entire part of the storyline.
Yeah, because Richard is obviously a retard, but the thing is, he's also basically a coward too. He's a total pussy, And I know people are going to say, oh, he was in the military. That doesn't mean he's not pussy. He is.
He's too stupid to know better.
Yes.
See, Redonkulous Pop is somebody I have. First off, Redonkulous Pop actually in the Army Rangers.
Yeah, Terrence Pop is actually cool. Now and he definitely understands and knows what he's talking about when it comes to, observing people's behavior and shit.
He had a serious brain injury, and he's still smarter than this.
Let's also not forget that the retard that made this comic is also the same retard who is suing Mark Waid, but still telling his fans to buy Mark Waid's comics. Why is he doing that?
It's the dumbest part about all of this.
Well,
it's like
there's a lot,
Mark
and
Waid,
that's a fucking pretty high bar, actually.
Mark Waid and like the rest of the fucking social justice fucking Marvel crowd are like
rape-deserving faggots
attacking him. They're just sworn enemies. If they could, they were literally threatening violence. Literally. They were threatening violence. They were like, if I see him at the Comic-Con, there's going to be some trouble. There's going to be some
punching. So yeah, the fact that he's suing Mark Waid and then still recommending Mark Waid's comics, that's pretty much the definition of a cuck. And to be on that same side inherently makes you a cuck also. Which is final proof that Comicsgate is for cuckolds.
That baseline motivation that they think they're going to be the ones to just kind of sidle in where the previous, the old guard had to kind of get the boot. Like, no, they're not going to get the boot. Your general audience is doofuses and retards.
They paid the old guard, and they're fucking, they directly funded this social justice that they whine about. They still buy their comics, and in fact, they say if you buy this comic, make sure to hashtag move the needle.
Yeah, that's what moved the needle was. It was proof that his own subscribers are enough of an audience. It's basically an ego trip. It's his own subscribers have enough presence.
He just started another Indiegogo to try to sell more copies. So he's starting up more and more Indiegogos for the same shitty comic that has pretty much failed at this point.
He only wants to sell it in comic stores. He will not let it be available digitally, which is why this is a scam.
When people asked him for digital copies, he told them that they didn't want digital copies because he didn't want it.
You're a hot dog vendor trying to sell hot dogs. That's it.
I'm not Tyler, says Zach. I want digital and floppy for Jawbreakers Lost Souls. Can this happen? I really hate digital comics. And I don't think people read digital comics.
Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture? Anybody? Anybody at all?
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next products.
And we actually have video evidence of that. It's one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen.
Not just video evidence. Go ahead and fucking ask him again. He'll fucking admit it.
Yeah, he'll just come out and admit it. Again, why is he going to do that? But,
was he stupid? He was told to make it look more like Rob Liefeld, and not just make it look more like mid-90s Drek. Literally, specifically, Rob Liefeld.
It's really bizarre. It's like a sort of conversion disorder, like a fat teenage girl who's fucking cutting herself and just has all these bipolar and fucking borderline personality and conversion disorders. She just can't see any part of reality. That's what Comicsgate is also turning into, where they now have this revisionist history of Rob Liefeld actually being a good artist.
Caramba.
They legitimately think... I know, I'm not even saying that as a joke. They legitimately think that. And they're basing their entire movement off of fucking trying to validate that.
I just realized that I'd never seen before is page 6 of this is he actually has like a double-bladed fucking knife. It's got blood on it. Don't know how it got blood on it because they're fighting Electro Godzilla. It's like Spectral Godzilla. I don't know how they fucking do that. But it's literally like that, literally, figuratively, supposedly, like the double-bladed fucking sword that was made fun of by Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, Rob Liefeld drew, like, I think he drew Shatterstar with a double-bladed sword, but the blades were just right next to each other.
It looked completely fucking fucked up.
Yeah, the first page of this is fucking terrible. We still haven't even got past the cover. The cover's terrible because if you look at the cover, several of the main characters are just squished off to the weird, vague center middle-ish area. But the thing is, there's nothing to indicate the importance of the characters, and none of them really look distinct or interesting. Also, the black guy has like 3 fingers, and he has like weird tentacle fingers. What the fuck is this?
He's got 3 he looks like an alien slave from Half-Life.
Yes.
I would much rather play Half-Life than read this shit.
Also, as we mentioned, the logo and the name is just fucking awful, because it's just like half a cat face and half a tire tread, because it was based off a comic he roasted on his YouTube channel, and it's called Splato Comics. I can imagine this is the last Splato comic that will ever be coming out. Just like Furlough, or fucking what some of the other fly-by-night companies that came and went after 3 issues.
As much as he trashes webcomics, he's not even on that level.
Yeah, he's not even on par with like a good webcomic.
Because webcomics are free.
In fact, I would say even Dresden Kodak was more readable than this comic. And Dresden yeah,
that's bad.
Oh yeah, it's that bad. Even Dominic Deegan was a better comic than anything Richard Meyer could fucking put out, because Dominic Deegan made me laugh with the whole fucking Brett Taggarty, star of Barbaric Sport, Slaughterball, and he used fag every other sentence. He apparently went around to strip clubs calling all the girls fags all the time. I was like, that's fucking funny.
That's hilarious.
That's hilarious. Unlike anything, unlike any of the humor, the fucking pathetic, cucked attempts at humor in this stupid piece of shit comic. The logo also sucks because it's, first of all, on the cover it's squished up off to the corner and then tilted, and it's very clearly just a cheap imitation of
the Expendables.
And it's Jawbreakers, and it's trademarked, just like how Ethan Van Sciver and Vox Day tried to together trademark Comicsgate until the fans were like, oh, this is bad, and then Ethan fucking walked away and acted like it was all Vox Day.
Do you think it's actually trademarked, or did he just put TM?
Yeah, I think he probably just put a TM. I'm sure it's not actually trademarked.
It's what you expect to see on the cover of a Marvel comic, which he would pulp his entire run of this fucking comic he made after it's already been printed, if it meant he could sweep the floors at Marvel.
Yes. He is a super mega Zybercuck. Richard C. Meyer is actually one of the biggest cucks in comics, because even the social justice faggots aren't telling people to buy these fucking Comicsgate comics. They're not even that cucked. Whereas Richard C. Meyer does tell people to do it, and they do it. They actually buy comics by social justice, like you have, and especially to fucking roast it. I have seen Comicsgate people say that you shouldn't pirate the bad SJW comics because you have to buy them because it's unethical. That's how fucking, again, the ethics cucking going on. It's like they didn't even learn from the mistakes of Gamergate, and that was years ago.
That was something Gamergate themselves corrected.
And Gamergate, even Gamergate admitted that they were fucked up by that. By the way, getting to the first page, even the first page doesn't make sense. Like the cover is clearly a pinup that doesn't mean anything, and they forced it into becoming a cover.
Here's another problem manga doesn't have.
Yeah, this was also clearly an attempt at a cover. It's a fucking splash page pinup turned into an actual page of the comic. It doesn't make any sense because they're in France. It has the Eiffel Tower and then explains that they're in France as if, you need to have that explained because the page is so incoherent anyways.
Yeah, the actual cover of the fucking comic is more like a splash page. And the actual fucking first page of the comic is more like a cover because the primary character is the one that's in front, and all the other characters are mostly visible. so that you can see all the details.
And they're all
them.
posing, but they're posing like retarded ballerina faggots because this comic is made by and for homosexual fucking sissy bitches. Sissy bitches. Like, just total tanks. But at the top is some generic monster apparently is impaled on the Eiffel Tower, but is it a physical monster or is it some kind of phase monster that's like partially phased through it? And in that case, how did that happen and who gives a shit? How far did you read into this comic?
I only read, I think, 9 pages.
And then you just quit. And to be honest, I read the rest of it. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't even worth reading past page 9. Nothing in the comic happens. So they kill a monster, and then they're all jumping and posing like ballerinas. This comic is already gay as shit. It's for gay faggot retards. The art sucks. The art's by John Malin, and he's really overrated. But his art for this book, like, some people have defended his art in other books. All I can go by is this book, really, because this is the most art I've ever seen by him. He sucks. John Malin's a shitty artist. John Shaky Voice Malin. He's kind of a big faggot, too, actually. He's a whiny bitch.
This is some pretty weird-looking stuff I'm seeing in here. You know, when people complained about Rob Liefeld's drawings, it's basically the same problem here. It's something he's truncating things in a stylistic way, but in the wrong way, and it looks, and it's he just gets arbitrarily geometric about things, and the coloring is kind of baseline, so it's like it kind of accentuates all of his.
Yeah, the coloring sucks too.
He's drawing this way on purpose, but like it's pretty damn well not that good, and he draws hard boobs. I don't like that. The hard boobs.
Yeah, the American style, they have absolutely no taste for objectification. They really suck. They draw women as really ugly and stupid looking, of course, but...
Basically, do we even need to describe how Rob Liefeld fucked up his art?
Yeah, he sucks. Everyone knows it at this point. The only people who don't know it are people who have conversion disorder. They've developed a conversion disorder about it, like some kind of fat teenage girl. But also, there's, even on the front splash page, the way that this gun is drawn, like there's the obvious Daredevil ripoff with this guy whose mouth is open, but he's not saying anything. And then the gun is drawn where you can see the front of the scope, but then the back of this silencer, as if the gun is bending, and the hand just looks like shit. The figures, the compositions, but you know the whole thing is just really badly drawn.
Here's my problem. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of problems. But why is he doing like a teen book? It should be focused around...
Yep, that was another huge... I mean, really obvious... I can't even say a rookie mistake, because even a rookie usually knows better than to make their first big book a team book. Like, if you're introducing your superheroes... You start by introducing your first superhero and tell us why we need to care about him. But for this entire comic, it's about 40-something pages. The entire comic, you never get to know anything about any of the heroes, and there's no reason given to care about any of them. So by the end of the book, even fans of this are talking about that, you know, there's really nothing in this of substance.
I hallucinated characters for these fucking characters because it's like being in a sensory deprivation tank.
Not a single one of them has a person. It's a bit ironic if you will, like Palpatine said that Jawbreakers Lost Souls is pretty much the most soulless comic of the entire year. He got paid $500,000, and then he's still fleecing fans for even more right now. He just opened another Indiegogo for this comic that's already finished. Just to make
this is a comic.
Just to fucking do another alternate. He's doing an alternate cover and taking money for it, and he hasn't even met the goal yet.
This is going to save comics. Like, this is what the comic industry needs to in order to
this will kill Comicsgate right here. This comic
is kind of how you destroy it faster.
Dead.
Abuse the courtesy of the diehard fans.
Yeah. Well,
nice job.
They do kind of deserve it, of course, if they're really going to be that suckered that easily.
Let's face it, comic book fans, they're stupid people.
Yeah, they're like idiots with bad taste faggots. Even a weeb has better taste, and weebs are fucking retarded, too.
Weebs are almost exactly... I don't know. It's hard to quantify. You need a fucking electron microscope to quantify just how much worse a fucking comic book cape cupcake is compared to a weeaboo.
Yeah, we actually objectively, quantifiably proved last year that superhero comic fans are cuckolded by their own favorite genre. That's why they're called cape cucks, because they're all cucked by the cape shit that they like. They keep getting ass fucked by the shitty comics that they keep buying. They keep paying. They're pay pigs for fucking Daddy Dom DC and Marvel. You can't get more cucked than that without just having a guy fuck your wife in front of you. To be honest, that might be less cucked than the average Comicsgate supporter at this point.
That's what was going on back in the 90s. This is not a new thing.
Yeah, it's all old news. It's stuff we've documented that Comicsgate still can't be honest about because they're not able to be honest. In fact, if you even present any honesty, just like Terrence Popp, to bring him up, if you get mad at somebody telling the truth, you're living a lie, and that's what Comicsgate has actually done. I've seen Comicsgate supporters have objective facts told to them, and they get mad. In fact, they get really irrationally whiny, angry. In fact, I've seen Richard C. Meyer just start openly whining like a little fucking bitch.
If you don't think I was at home pissing myself, like, did he just waffle on that softball question?
I've seen braver quines.
When his channel first showed up and we started watching it, I could really only stomach it for about 2 months. And then after that, I was like, okay, this is kind of fucking pointless and stupid. I'm done with this.
He was still not saying anything that we didn't say a couple years before him. But a dumber version. And then he was still wrong.
Version. And then he started fucking saying really obviously dumb shit.
Yeah, incorrect. Not just dumb, but objectively, quantifiably incorrect shit.
It started with me being able to say, well, he's wrong about this, but I support what he's doing. I can no longer support what he's doing anymore.
Yeah,
because he's doing it so wrong.
At this point, it's like I wouldn't even be surprised if he lost it. He has a slam dunk lawsuit against Mark Waid, and I wouldn't even be surprised if he lost it. And if he did, I wouldn't even have any sympathy for him because he's such a fucking bitch. He's such a whiny little faggot.
He's the one paying Mark Waid's fucking bills right now.
Yeah, and now now what's happening is, now that his comic came out and is a giant fucking embarrassment to himself, he's latching on closer to Ethan, who also now needs to latch on to Richard for validation and credibility, because Ethan's comic was supposed to come out last year, and it's way overdue, and now he has Richard making excuses for him like a little girl. We didn't even get to the second page. The second page has like all these guys firing at the Jawbreakers. Why are they shooting at the Jawbreakers for killing a monster?
Hold on, one of them's dual-wielding pistols.
Yeah, one of them's dual-wielding, but the thing is, notice all the gun effect lines end at the edge of this, it looks like the edge of a building, or it's the edge of a street, or some shit. But it's like the select tool only went that far.
Yeah, it was painted digitally. Wait, I thought he hated digital.
Yeah. The next page, they jump into the water away from guards shooting them, and the back of a boat says Cafe Nurk, as in Nurkish. And it's embarrassing how Richard still doesn't understand that Nurkish can't fucking... Not only does Nurkish hate his guts, but he pretty much is responsible for Nurkish having to be run off of fucking Twitter. He basically fucked up Nurkish's life, and he's too stupid to even understand it. I mean, mostly that was because of Ethan Van Sciver, but let's face it, he's friends with Ethan Van Sciver, so he's fucking part of it. Oh, there's another thing, is all the 10 minutes later or or now captions. That's one of the most worthless things in all of comic books, especially in the 90s. One of the reasons why 90s comics failed and the industry collapsed was, first of all, because the comics were shit, of course. But one of the reasons the comics were shit was they were always trying to be fancy with the time and jump around and trying to really Tarantino it because Pulp Fiction came out. when they would have some establishing shot, it would say now, or 3 days ago, or 5 months later, or any of this shit. And just
5 months from now.
Yeah, just jumping around desperately.
And there's no point for it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to do it.
Yeah, there's no reason to say anything is later, because if you're showing a page or a panel, and then you show another panel after that, of course it's taking place afterwards. It doesn't really matter when the later is.
2 seconds from now.
Yeah, exactly. I would take back every complaint I have about this comic if a panel actually said 15,000 milliseconds later or some shit like that. One thing you were also mentioning was that we both put off reading this comic for weeks just because we opted to go fishing in Warframe. And Warframe is a game where you play as cyborg ninjas that can wall run while shooting machine guns. And we wanted to go fishing in it instead of reading this fucking dumb, boring comic. Like, even Sonichu is more interesting on accident. In fact, has more fans. It has a bigger fan base. It's more... Chris Chan is more famous and popular than anyone in Comicsgate, including this stupid-ass piece of shit.
This comic suffers from a lot of, like, weird time jumps where, like, there's this part where he, 2 of the Jawbreakers escape captivity from a truck, and the guy's later, the big bad guy later is accosting one of the drivers of his cars that let them get away, supposedly. But the guy's already got a hole blown in his gut from, like, supposedly from Cyborg Boss punching him or shooting him or whatever. There's no evidence other than a blood splatter that's vague as to how exactly he did that. And the guy is conducting a conversation, you know, a couple of lines of dialogue with a big hole in his gut. And I'm like, there's serious time issues with just that frame. Yeah, I don't know. In general, I tend to have an issue with hard. There's a reason why I don't do hard blacks in my own drawing styles, because it always ends up sucking the fucking life out of a lot of the characters, and they all look stupid. You have to have a bunch of stone-faced hard asses and girls with hard boobs. That's how you compensate for it.
Ugly chicks.
Now,
guys with lines all over their faces.
Yeah, there are people who can do a good job. I've seen people who use hard blacks where the subtlety is there, but obviously that's not time efficient.
There's also like the 5th page or something where the guy's eating a fucking ice cream bar, and just like one side of his face is weirdly bulged out, and it looks like he erased part of the lips. Just straight up erased it with a fucking erase tool in Photoshop.
But it's just a weird shape.
And it just looks ugly and stupid. I heard John Malin on a fucking on a show, and his voice was shaking because he was so angry about something really dumb. It's like, wow, this guy's a fucking bitch.
Oh boy.
Somebody spoiler Game of Thrones Season 6.
No, that would be a better reason than why he was mad.
And that's not a good reason to be mad either.
No.
It's fucking Game of Thrones. What a cunt.
Also, the fucking the way he draws eyes in that one page, they look like fucking a lotus flower seed pod. Just looks fucking horrific. It's just a fucking mess.
Superimposed over a woman's breast nipple.
Yes.
So that you want to throw up.
It's just about as creepy.
But yeah, everyone's eyes are closed except for this one.
Their eyes are either invisible or closed, or they're weirdly sunken in like really wrinkly sockets. It's fucking... It looks really dumb.
Are they supposed to be really good-looking 60-year-olds?
They also kind of look like Bob Hope when he was dying and his eyelids were falling off of his fucking eyes. And one other thing I was going to mention is that Richard putting a Nurkish reference into his comic is like Hillary Clinton writing a book about what a great president Donald Trump is. There's yet another later caption. With all the time jumping that comics did, at least this one's still vaguely chronological, but most comics in the 90s were trying to be too clever with the time going back and forth. Like, issue 0 would take place 3 days from now, and then issue 1 would take place 8 months ago, but they would still all start in medias res. It's like, oh, they're trying to... The hitchhike, and it's like, this is the beginning of the story where you're introducing the characters, and they're just they're already in the middle of their adventure that's now ending, and you're not going to even establish what was happening, and why are they doing it, and then skip to 5 minutes earlier, and then 2 days later, and then a fucking month ago, and It's not linear.
It is not linear.
No. It's not linear.
And it's depressing.
What is this? These pictures in the Chan thread of Ethan Van Sciver with a fucking tattoo that says Ethan on his own.
Yeah, that's his signature. If you look on the cover for Jawbreakers, that's his signature, and he got it tattooed on his chest.
Jesus fucking Christ!
I know.
He looks like a weird pile of fucking sweaty. What was that? What was that line? It looks like a pile of sweaty pancakes.
Yes. He looks, the thing is that supposedly this is his picture that he uses to try and pick up guys on Craigslist.
Oh, I was gonna say, because like you ain't gonna pick up girls with that picture.
No.
Guys would go nuts. Cuckoo for Cocoa
no man
Puffs,
would take a picture of themselves like that with any intent of trying to pick up chicks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have a goblin penis for a nose, you're not gonna get too many chicks.
Old dick nose Ethan.
I expected him to have a Keebler midget voice or some kind of a speech impediment. Maybe a W for R.
He has a very put-on voice. It's a very fake voice, you could tell. The way he talks like this, he's really putting it. He's pushing his voice, which is something that gay guys do and serial killers do. Like kind of like Dexter.
Gay serial killers,
especially
perhaps.
Gay. He might actually be a serial killer. You know what I found out recently is that back before the first Cyberfrog comic in the 90s, he got married to a chick who I guess had money to help him get the comic made and published, and she got kidnapped, I think, right before that happened. But they never found out who the kidnapper was. And then Ethan got money to fucking make his dumb Cyberfrog comic.
Golly, some of these drawings are absolute fucking question mark head scratchers. The photograph that gay half-beard mustache guy has, where it's like, I guess, a picture of him and his girl. Like, her chin's too short, her ears look like mollusk kind of shells. The very, very last, the end panel, where he's staring at a photograph of him and some girl. If I let a picture like that out, even on my worst comic day, I would smash my fucking hand with a hammer as penitence. Like, I don't understand. Like this, that's not stylistically excusable. What I'm looking at right here. I understand.
Yeah,
you have to
it looks
draw a lot
like
of
the
shit.
lips are sinking into her skull.
You have to exercise caution when you're doing close-ups, especially if you have an already shaky kind of human approach where you draw nothing but stone-faced hard asses, like a subtler face,
Soulless personality devoid fucking weirdos who are boring and not interesting. If you're doing that,
rounder,
you gotta have some kind of control
more
of it.
feminine face. You need to adopt a separate fucking drawing style. That's what you need to do. You can't draw a young person with craggy features and have them read as being young, you know. And so instead, he avoids adding a lot of contours around the face, obviously, because it's a young girl's face. And then he just does kind of the weird cut and grade 8 shading, which is comic standard, but he doesn't do it very well. He adds weird contours around the nose, and then he has these weird lips that suck inward instead of protrude outward because of how he did the cut and grade.
Yeah, the actual lips are sinking into the fucking skin somehow, breaking all the laws of physics. Some of that's just on the colorist too, who's a different guy, and he's not very good either.
Well, this is how you draw a walking, talking corpse, like with some degree of like
it looks kind of skeletal
composition
almost.
in the
sort of like the
it
Joker.
kind of looks like she's chewed her lips off. And,
yes, and then replace them with like the border of like a bologna roll. It's like peeled off, like take a slice of bologna and you peel off the outer layer, the end layer of it, and then you put it on his lips. That's what her fucking face looks like.
The one thing is, people are less likely to complain if the standard is already kind of janky. So, like, that's how a lot of these comic styles have survived, is that really there were no expectations about coherent facial expressions or
I guess there's no
kind of
expectations for these either.
Emotional reality to like the characters, and there's obviously no expectations here. I mean, this is just standard comic stuff. You're not going to be able to avoid that unless you go for a
They still got
top-of-the-line artist.
$500,000 to make this.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
in fact, it's
That's
over
a good
$500,000, and he started another Indiegogo to get more money for this comic. Not even a fucking a new version of it, just the same comic. The ear. Why does her ear also looks like an asshole? In fact, the way this guy draws lips most of the time, everyone has asshole lips in this comic.
Oh, asshole lips. Tell her to hit the bricks.
This is weird. It's like somebody took a surgical tube and just wrapped it around her teeth, and it's like, calm down the fucking contours around the subtler expression parts of the face. Like, I don't know how this is so hard for these guys. It's because they don't.
It's because they're hacks, but also I think
they don't
possibly on
they
direction.
Can draw the hard guys. They can draw the background, sort of. They can draw the action. That's all that people really pay them for.
It's not really exactly content worthy of good art either.
I keep wondering, it's like, well, technically this guy does draw cleaner than me, but boy, does he fuck up so many things. The reason why I don't do certain stuff is because it doesn't come out right, so I don't try it. And it's like,
this guy's
all
a fucking
differences...
industry veteran, too. He's like, oh, he used to work for Marvel. It's like, oh, that's not really impressive to me. I don't give a shit.
I know what the problem is. This guy draws like a Chinese architect. There were all these. I used to work construction, right? And there was this building where they had a bunch of architecture drawings because it was a builder's company, and they all had this really rudimentary kind of like everything looked oddly flat, even though all the perspective was technically there, and it was all. It looked clean. I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's impressive enough, but it's absolutely lifeless architectural drawing where. Everything is kind of just boxy, and you get some pretty basic hatching. This guy draws like that, and he's applied all those. I wonder, you got to think about how many of these guys probably used to work in some kind of architecture or design firm or something like that. When they can't get comic work, they probably turn to that.
And they try and branch out into comics or something. It's like,
maybe,
I liked reading this shitty comic when I was a kid. At the moment, it's actually almost more entertaining watching Comicsgate collapse and Richard C. Meyer's soon-to-be fucking failed, or not soon-to-be, it's already pretty much a failed comics career. It's collapsing before us. There's one funny part, though, in the comic, unintentionally, of course, where the fucking chick wants to pay them off. So she has a bag of jewels, just like in Freddy Got Fingered.
I have a bag of jewels for you. They're jewels, Betty. They're jewels.
They point out, oh, you just bought an army with these jewels, and it's like a very typically childish way of seeing the world is thinking that raw gems are actually fucking that valuable. They're not. $10,000 solid.
Yeah, it's like trying to resell diamonds is supposed to be a big pain in the ass.
Well, because the diamond market's so tightly fucking controlled by one company that they can intentionally tank the value of diamonds. But yeah, just gems are fucking, how about cash? But instead, no, they have all these shiny rocks, and it's like, oh, shiny rocks are worth something, but they're not really worth something. They only have perceived value. It doesn't really mean anything or matter.
It'd be cool if they had, magic powers that could, give us super...
You're already thinking way, way too ahead of this comic. You're thinking way more than the writer of this comic thought about it. Even though all the characters have superpowers, yet I think at least 3 times in the comic, one character says to another, we don't even know how your powers work. Which is a great way to introduce your characters by just you're not even going to bother saying, here's how this guy's powers work. Here's what this guy's like. You don't even learn what they're like. They don't have any personality, and they don't have any description of what they're supposed to be doing. In fact, there's a character in this comic whose power basically is the same as Spider-Man, where he can create... It's like Spider-Man and Green Lantern, where he can create constructs out of silk automatically, just on a whim. You just never see it.
He makes parachutes, right? Isn't that what he was doing?
Yeah, there's one time he makes a parachute. But, of course, they don't have to do any of that shit. None of it really matters, because they could have just had actual parachutes.
If I were Silkworm, all I'd do is just wrap my penis in silk, and then it would look real big, and then all the girls would
just pat it out while it's in your pants.
Yeah.
So when you go through TSA at the airport,
and the girl gets to it, and she's like, "It's not as big," and it's, "What is this?" And it's like, "Well, it's not a sock, baby."
And you have to kill her to keep her from blabbing. Oh yeah, another thing is that after the chick pays them in fucking shiny rocks, she hires them to fight the giant gorilla, and then she says, "Nothing can stop him. No one can stop him." So that's, first of all, nice confidence building, but also, why are you hiring people when you don't even expect them to be able to win? It's like, here's money, you're not gonna do anything. Like, what's the fucking point of that? You can ask that about almost anything that happens in this comic. It's like, what's the point of this? And it turns out, oh yeah, there's not really any point to anything in this comic.
This is basically the 90s with a vengeance, meaning some kind of, I don't know, well, I guess it's war, so it's not really like, you know how like everybody in the 90s and the 80s, all the big popular musicians were into world music because they were trying to gratify the African culture. Because
world
it was
music, that means they
it was
got someone
effectively
playing
a quick way to
background.
get people to think that you were a sensitive, forward-thinking individual. So
Like
I care about
artist.
Africa. They don't actually care about Africa, so they just write a bunch of fucking music and then use
Not even
local
Africans care
musicians.
about Africa.
I'm wondering if this is kind of along the same line here. I'm trying to think of like what exactly is the point here. They were just hired and they show up according to a contract, right? And they just show up at this place without knowing anything about what they're up against. But
Yeah,
they're
they
the
get paid in a bag
hotshots,
of
so-
jewels to go up against something that they're
Okay.
told directly that they can't win against.
Okay, see, the way you just said it makes it sound extremely dumb, and you're right. So, the way I criticize things nowadays, I used to be a lot harsher, but now I try and justify what they're trying to do and how they fall short of it. All right, so I understand what they're trying to do, and they're trying to make an adventure action thing, and the context is that
He's
they
trying
are
to relive his nostalgia, too. He's trying to base everything on nostalgia. That's also what he's trying to do.
Yeah, so these guys are obviously just like crazy cool Suicide Squad. They don't really give a shit what they're up against. They'll figure it out one
The
way or another.
Expendables, but with superpowers. It's literally G.I. Joe plus the X-Men.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
Which there already were comics of that. There's G.I. Mutants in the 80s, in the late 80s. I have a fucking comic. I have an issue of G.I. Mutants. It's not even that good, but it is still better than this.
I was looking at this scene where black guy saves black girl, and then they kiss, and it's
They're
absolutely
instantly in love just because he
it's like
jumped on
two
her.
dry fish getting pressed up against each other. It's just how he drew it. Looks very...
With their asshole lips. When they start fighting the gorilla, he punches him, and the gorilla's eyeball flies out, and the eyeball is visibly shown as smaller than the guy. And then they cut to the eyeball rolling away, and it's visibly seen as being larger than multiple people and an entire jeep. He's just punching it. So you would have to have just punched it and be far away.
Yeah,
With
exactly.
the power of 1,000 slaves.
Yes.
With the power of 1,000 slaves,
The only line that people act like is funny, but it's way too try-hard. He writes his comics as movie screenplays, by the way, and then just gives
Is
them
that
the
right?
screenplay and doesn't even turn it into a comic script.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's what he did with Iron Sights.
He did that to the Iron Sights artist?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
He admitted it. He just came out and fucking said it. I just gave him the screenplay for the script. If you look at the later pages, we pointed out, the eyeball goes back to being fucking small again.
Normally the scale on this fucking huge ape thing is not that bad, but when it comes to this eyeball, that's the real problem.
Well, there's also another part where suddenly another guy is just flying through the air, and it's never really explained how he's just flying through the air. He doesn't have flight, he's just in the air and shooting at the ape's other eye, and the eye is smaller than him again. But
What was I talking
then
about?
on the exact same page, the other eye that's rolling around is larger than a jeep. So it's completely off model on the same page as itself.
The part where they tie down fucking ape with the spectral, it's like the spectral soul. It's kind of like that issue of Eighth Wonder where the fucking bondage fairy girl has the, soul latex, where she makes fetish gear, and she fucking ties down the main character female with fucking...
To rape her, I hope, of course.
It's basically like leather, and then she makes a dildo and penetrates her in order to snap her out of her insanity because she was taken over by an alien parasite. And then it doesn't work, and they end up raping each other and fucking spraying girl jizz and piss all over the place.
That sounds way better than this stupid.
Fascinating.
What I'm trying to fucking explain, this part where it's like the ape head is all bloodied by the river, and the river turns red, and it's like, oh, that's kind of a good detail, because it's like, oh man.
Well, also, like, the waterfall part of the river is just going over his face like it's a fucking flat polygon.
Yeah, it's fucking really uber simplistic, but I guess, I don't know, it's fucking... I am not complaining about the art. You can do shitty art and still tell a really good story and deliver the visuals you're trying to deliver.
Yeah, like even that's a good example of how something like Sonichu is still better than this comic, and the art for Sonichu is not as good as this, but it's still a better comic.
The art for Sonichu is quite bad.
And
in fact, that's a better example.
Also, Tails gets trolled. That's also proof. You don't really need great art. You don't need top of the line art to tell a good story in a comic.
Tails Gets Trolled and Sonichu are great examples of how to do this right and wrong. Tails Gets Trolled, perfect encapsulation of things like art style and dimension and shit like that. And fucking Sonichu is a great encapsulation of how to fuck it all up. I don't think he can do better anyway.
Yeah, you can't really blame Chris Chan. I don't think Chris Chan could do
can't do better. The guy who makes Tails Gets Trolled, he perfectly captures the art style of all these disparate art styles that all these characters come from, like Mario and Sonic and fucking Looney Tunes and his own characters and shit. It's like, this takes some fucking effort.
Yeah, they're all fully identifiable. You can tell who fucking Wile E. Coyote is and Sonic and fucking Mario, but then still done in his style. And
Bugs Bunny's
like
ears,
almost a rudimentary kind of
Bugs
ability.
Bunny's ears aren't the right length when he admits that the best way to avoid getting trolled is to act really gay and dress up like a girl and run up and kiss them. I don't like it, but it works.
But it works. And that's a great moment in comics history, as opposed to this that doesn't have any...
It's a classic...
There's nothing memorable in this. After I stopped reading it, I forgot everything that happened in it.
An eternal part of the fabric of the human experience is the part in Tails Gets Trolled, where Bugs Bunny admits he found the secret to not getting trolled, and is to do a bunch of stupid gay shit and dress like a girl and go up to them and kiss them.
But then
I don't
also
like
he later
doing
admits
it.
that he became gay for real while trying to do that with, was it Daffy or something?
He became gay for real with Daffy.
That's why they were in love with each other. So Shadow the Hedgehog shouldn't kill Daffy because he's in love with him. Because Bugs was in love with him.
And then Daffy gets killed, and Bugs Bunny is emotionally destroyed by it.
That's what we would rather talk about. That's a more interesting comic to talk about than this.
This comic is so boring, I'd rather do anything else.
Yes. We would rather go fishing in fucking Warframe than read this or talk about it.
You have to understand, not just regular fishing, but spear fishing. Do you understand how much more arduous that is?
I mean, why use a spear for fishing in Warframe when you already have a fucking machine gun? You could just shoot the fish.
But you're not allowed
to do that. But yeah, you can't do it. You can't catch the fish with a fucking gun, unfortunately.
You gotta use a fucking spear, and it's like a fucking goofy looking spear, but it's just a fucking spear.
And you have to arc it right. There's a drop distance and all that shit. You know, here's another shot of the eyeball where the eyeball is only like 10 times bigger than a person as opposed to 100. So again, it's off scale. It's just fucking off model. And there's also that earlier panel where the eyeball like falls on a guy and you can't really even fucking tell what the hell's happening.
No,
you
that's
just see
the
the eyeball
part.
hovering over a vague figure, and you don't know who it is. It's supposed to be one of the guys, but they're so generic, and he's just drawn as like a stick silhouette, and then splort, so it looks like the eyeball falls on him and explodes, but then the eyeball's drawn off to the side again, and you can't tell that the eyeball fell on him and he got stuck inside it. In fact, 2 people got stuck inside it, but there's only this one hole, which you can't even really see. You can't even tell there's a hole in the eyeball. It's just a fucking disaster. It's not laid out well. Thing is, I'm sure it's not written coherently, but it's not drawn coherently either. where a giant fucking eyeball falls onto a guy and he gets stuck in it. You only
And
find
then
out
the
because
eyeball-
like a page or two later, somebody says, "This guy's stuck in the eyeball."
The eyeball's like fucking bouncing down a hill, and there's some dialogue that has nothing to do with it. The dialogue you can't understand. It's like, does this have something to do with the eyeball, or is it just two other people separately talking about something else?
You can see the characters when the eyeball's going to fall on him. You look at it, you even zoom in, and one is like, his arm is literally just one line. It's a single ink line for his arm. And his leg is a fucking ink line, too. And then the other guy, I think he has a gun, or his arm is, like, bent unnaturally. It's just fucking bizarre looking. A couple pages later, someone points out, Hellpriest is inside the eyeball, running down a mountain. And then this other guy chops the fucking, I don't know. I don't know who. I don't know who The thing is, they don't explain who Hellpriest is, who he's supposed to be, because no one ever says, "Hey, Hellpriest," in the comic. They refer to him in the third person only when he's off panel.
This is an introductory
It's a shitty
comic
layout for
this
anything.
entire team. Who are these people? At least give me some introduction.
Yeah, why should we
Let
care?
me know who they are.
At least one of them.
Which
At
one's
least
which?
one of them. But not even fucking one of them. And yeah, anytime their name is brought up, they're usually way in the deep background. Like, here's one of the fucking Knife Hand, which is it's a retarded name that like a child would look down on.
I thought Knife Hand was the one who got fucking squished by the eyeball.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not actually, because he's doing this other thing.
He might have, but then the writer forgot. But the
I
fucking
forgot.
Knife Hand chops through like the Achilles of the gorilla, and the fucking inside of the ankle is just shown as completely hollow. You wrote hollow chocolate raspberry filled because there's just like a splash of some blood that doesn't even look like it's really coming from it. Even a fucking generic manga will graphically detail the inside of someone's fucking internal organs. They're fucking,
it's supposed to be ultra-violent.
An actual physical fucking
This is
representation
ultra-violent,
of the
not
lower intestines.
constrained by any of the
90s
fucking
violent.
other shit.
Yeah, the 90s violence fucking sucked in comics. They're just stupid. And then all
lame.
this goofy
it's
shit
lame,
happens.
or it's fucking really silly and fucking laughable.
The black guy, after all that goofy shit is happening, the black guy's like, "I swear we're usually a lot better than this." Almost sounds like a meta excuse for how bad this comic is. But at the same time, what's this guy doing? He punched out the eyeball, so now he's just gonna stand here next to the fucking chick? He's not doing
What's
anything.
the excuse? Even as a meta excuse for how the comic is not that good, what is your excuse for that? I mean, this is your comic. This is your first comic. This is Splato's fucking...
Well, it's not even his first comic. He did Iron Sights, but he's done comics before this for the past few years. This is like his 5th or 6th comic, and it reads like something a fucking 10-year-old wrote.
But this is the maiden voyage for his new...
sub-fanfic tier. Yeah, this is the maiden voyage for his new fucking publishing line. And there's no reason for it to be even half this fucking bad.
It could be the best anyone he's ever known can ever do, and this is it?
Yeah, and even the art, like the spear in this is a tiny like 2-line stick. This also sucks. The part where the guy gets thrown and he says, "Yeah, boy," just a pathetically desperate attempt to brand his fucking catchphrase. He's trying to make "Yeah, boy" his personal catchphrase, but it's from a meme from like 2 or 3 years ago that had nothing to do with him. It was the frog on the unicycle thing. And then a bunch of gay fucking cringier than usual YouTubers started introducing themselves by saying, "It's ya boy," whatever. And
it's also from Disney Channel live action TV shows.
So fucking Richard started doing that because he desperately wishes he was still a teenager. He peaked in high school. He's like fucking Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. Where he's like, "Would you bet I can throw a football over the mountains?"
Could throw a pigskin about 50 miles.
Yes, he was obsessed with trying to get a time machine, and then all the time machine does is just zap your balls. It's a piece of crap. It doesn't work. This fucking that's what Richard C. Meyer's life is, and it's about to collapse on top of him because this comic is out now, and everyone can see how fucking terrible it is.
Splato Comics, it's a decroded piece of crap.
Yes. And the thing is, all anyone can do at this point is make excuses for this comic. On this panel, the Yeah Boy panel, his fucking fists are smaller than his arms. Does that not look right to anyone else? Shouldn't the foreshortening have his fists be bigger?
I mean, to fucking Richard Meyer's arms, where he's got these fucking weird lumpy...
Oh yeah, where Richard C. Meyer actually tried to inject saline into his biceps to make them look bigger.
But did he actually? I thought he exercised to do that.
No, he just injected saline into his biceps and then took a picture of himself and tried to act like he fucking exercises. He's a complete fucking faggot fraud.
He's a
totally
fraud.
bitch made.
Why would you do that at all?
And then, oh yeah, the next page, just out of nowhere, the fucking two black characters just fall in love with each other just because they've been standing in proximity with each other for like a couple pages, and they both have asshole lips. Hey, asshole lips, nice fucking lips, loser.
Donut asshole, kind of like fucking who's the person who draws tons of donut asshole?
Oh, that's Noel.
Well,
whatever, I don't know how his name's.
There's a few people who do that in the fucking.
I think Igaka does too.
Free Twitter porn industry.
Igaka, Gloss, and Noel.
There's a few other people who do it,
but their art is better than this.
Yeah, well, obviously, way better than this. This isn't even a zoom in on a tiny, tiny panel, and look at these beads on her forehead. They're so fucking...
Oh yeah, they fucking... The beads on her forehead are just like little fucking... I got my 7-year-old to pitch in for that one.
It's like the art style for fucking Yoshi's Island, but even worse.
He really rushed through these.
And it's so forced.
She also has asshole ears, if you look at her ears close enough.
You're right. And his neck.
Yeah, he has asshole veins on his neck. What's with all the fucking wrinkling and shit?
This fucking romance is so forced. It's basically like raping the audience.
Yes. Yeah, and it happens out of nowhere, and then she's just killed out of nowhere a few pages later.
Normally, I'm not going to be a math fag like my personal webcomic, XCKD.
Yes, the webcomic that we personally make. It's called XCKD 2 to the squared power, which is a lot. I don't know how much that is.
But I saw that the fucking this ape is like the size of the fucking continent or some shit, and it's like it's 5,000 tons, and it's like it doesn't sound accurate.
Yeah, 5,000 tons, and it's as big as a waterfall and a river. Shouldn't that be more like 50,000 tons at least? I can almost, again, you don't want to be a math fag, and sometimes it's like, okay, it's big, but why do you have to point out how much it weighs?
Yeah, this is on the writer.
This part's really dumb because it's one of our main heroes whining to his fucking teammates. I secured the thing, I marked up by myself, and can you fucking find Devil Dog? Can you do that for me, pretty please, Cupcake?
Could you please help me?
The only cupcake, of course, is the people who paid money for this comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is he whining, though? He's almost as whiny as Richard C. Meyer. In fact, what was it? I forgot what it was. One of his recent videos where someone was talking about... It was like an old article where he's reading some new comics company that I think the New York Times was doing a puff piece on. And the company says that they're not going to do... I almost said cape shit. They're not going to do superhero comics. That's how they put it. And Richard immediately starts whining like a little fucking bitch about how this company says they're not doing superhero comics. And it's like, wow, what a fucking little girl you are.
Yeah, what's your problem?
Like, a couple of the characters just get kidnapped off panel, and then they're on a truck. It's really stupid. And again, that's mostly on the writing, but then the chick, asshole lips and asshole lips are like, oh no, he's more machine than man. Spells wouldn't affect. Suddenly, there's magic spells in this comic.
Spells? And wait, spells don't affect metal? It's like witches can't lift flour on their own?
Yes, witches can't lift flour on their own. I didn't know that.
I've said za in better towns than this. She also has asshole lips and an asshole ear.
Yes, she has a very serious case of asshole ear. Oh, and this comic has a serious case of fucking sucking a dick. and being the last comic Richard C. Meyer will ever make. He's not going to make another comic after this, because who the fuck would even want to do that?
I don't care.
Who would even read another comic by this dickless cocksucker?
If he makes a comic after this, he will not have made a comic after this, because it'll be so bad.
Imagine though him actually doing another comic after that. Like he did Iron Sights and this.
No.
Both have come out and both have been complete dog shit.
Did we even review Iron Sights?
Yes,
I don't
we did.
remember. Oh, we did? I don't remember even reviewing
I know.
it.
I almost forgot what we said about it. We did a fucking big elaborate review on it. There's another panel here, by the way, of one of the guys like prancing like a ballerina, and his arm just becomes like a tiny little noodle that's flopping in the air, and just looks it's just a fucking mess. Yeah, here's another one where they have these fucking like noodle legs and arms, and this one isn't even fucking zoomed in that much. This is just on the size of the page, and then you have the main chick gets her neck snapped just in an inset panel of a 2-page splash, and she's gone. That's it. She gets she doesn't even get fridged. That would be too good. Oh yeah, then this other panel where like the gorilla is again suddenly the gorilla is a lot smaller, and his eyeballs are smaller than their bodies, even from zoomed out, even from them being far away.
He's smaller than he used to be.
But like he's punching the ground, and then a beam of like some kind of giant beam shoots out up into the air.
No, don't even ask me what the fuck's going on. I stopped reading about beyond this point.
Yeah, they don't even explain what the fuck's supposed to be happening in this panel. So the whole story is the Jawbreakers are a bunch of faggots with noodle arms who get hired to fight a giant gorilla in Africa. So they fight it, but then the giant gorilla turns out to not be the bad guy, and then there's an African warlord who has a cybernetic body.
So what was the point of that?
Yeah, nothing.
What was the point of everything that happened before this point?
Nothing.
Tell me. I don't understand. What was the purpose?
I don't understand.
What was the point? What was the objective the writer was trying to give us?
What's the theme of this story?
Readers?
What is the theme of this story? A giant gorilla. That's the theme. The theme of the story is it has a giant gorilla in it.
A giant gorilla, and then also, again, there is a giant gorilla. By the way, did you notice the giant gorilla?
Yeah. And the reason why there's a giant gorilla in this comic is because King Kong is in the public domain, so that the writer can just put King... He actually said that. He admitted that. That was the reason he put fucking a giant gorilla in this comic.
I don't give a shit if he admitted it. Just the fact that that's true, and he decided to do that.
Yes,
Why?
It's hilariously embarrassing on his part.
This is your first big comic for your new brand.
He basically, he's like, okay, here's the new big comic for Splotto Comics. This is the new revolution in comics. We're bringing the 90s back. He sat down to work, sharpened his pencil, then threw up his arms and said, well, I'm out of ideas.
Threw his fucking pencil out the window.
Yes.
I won't need this. I already have the public domain. Here's fucking King Kong.
Yeah, the public domain, which is for lazy hacks.
100 times taller.
Lazy, retarded hacks who are terrible at writing and terrible even at comics. And comics is like the bargain basement for... It's where you go when you can't even embarrass yourself anymore.
The public...
You cut out again.
You cut
out. A radio station for like a post-apocalypse game. And it's like,
what were you talking about?
We're talking about Fallout, of course.
Oh yeah, you know what? Fallout. You know what's better than reading this comic is playing Fallout 76. Boy, Fallout 76 is like you can play Fallout with your friends online.
Fallout 76.
That's so much better than this comic. Fallout 76 is a better comic than this comic. It's not even a comic.
But you know what? I have some criticisms about Fallout 76.
Yeah, it's got some problems.
It's got some issues.
I know we're supposed to be reviewing this comic, but really, let's just talk about Fallout 76. I would rather do that than talk about this fucking comic.
You know what? I have to piss. I got to piss.
Even that is more interesting than this comic. Hold on, though. I didn't finish spoiling the comic. For those of you who didn't read it, the chick that hires them to fight the gorilla, she dies from the African warlord, so they kill the African warlord, and then the gorilla teleport. It goes through a portal to another dimension at the end. And then they're like, "Yay!" And that's it. That's the entire story of the comic. I'm not exaggerating. If you read it, you can go to our 8chan board. Just look for the comic or the thread making fun of Comicsgate. It should be right at the top because it's a pretty low traffic board, like one of the lowest traffic boards on 8chan, of course. Oh yeah, and then fucking some guy, some character that we don't even really know, just flies up in a helicopter and he sprays a bunch of people. It's one of the shittiest, laziest fucking scenes of people getting blown apart. The sound effect is in Impact, of course, and it's just a bunch of like white on red scribbles.
And you could have represented that very carefully and precisely, but it's just a bunch of W's.
You could have done it with more graphic, with more violence and shit. That's how I would have done it.
Just fucking, here's how you do it. B, just a bunch of letter B, and then fucking intersperse the letter R, and then the last third is intersperse the letter T. Not fucking WWWWRRRR repeated.
Well, I'm sure he doesn't he doesn't know what that meme is because he's a fucking fraud.
I don't even care. I don't give a shit. That's the sound of a minigun firing. That's how you do it right either fucking way. Again, I'm not going to complain that much about the art, but this is fucking so lazy.
Yeah.
So poorly done.
It's lazy and it looks bland and it just looks boring.
You can do better than this.
Yeah, and they should have, considering the fucking amount they fleeced for this fucking worthless pile of shit comic.
Do you believe the artist is going to get paid that amount that he got from the fucking Patreon? The fucking Dorothy Comics got from the fucking Patreon? I don't. He's probably not going to get a fucking penny of that shit.
Well, I don't think he really deserves it anyways. Fuck him.
Here's fucking $900. Or fucking some shit like that. Here's $3,000 to draw the whole comic, and let's fucking see the Patreon.
Yeah, that might have been all he got.
If I can get reimbursed from the Patreon,
but here's the thing:
is that how much I get.
Even afterwards, he still made a bunch of excuses for Richard C. Meyer, and then white knighted for Ethan and shit, to the point where he was started yelling and it was all angry.
Then I don't have any sympathy for him.
I don't have any sympathy for anyone anymore, and it doesn't matter anyways because they're over. Comicsgate's over. Fucking Richard C. Meyer's comics career is officially over with this comic, and all that's really left is for Cyberfrog to either come out or, one thing we were noticing lately that we haven't really mentioned is that if Cyberfrog actually comes out, Ethan's going to have to take half of the money that he got, fucking chop it out, and he's going to have to lose that in order to print and ship the comic, and he'll still have to pay taxes on it too, so that's a big chunk gone. So at the end of all this, he might not have any money left.
Well, no, he'd only make a profit of about $200,000. Well, why bother then?
He would make a full profit if he simply never releases the comic. He'll just pocket the money, which he probably has already done.
No, let's face it. He'll make a full profit no matter what. But it's like, do you want to make a full profit of $200,000 or a full profit of $1.1 million? And fucking, it's so
which he hasn't gotten. He doesn't even have $1 million from this. He tries to brag that I think either he got $1 million or Comicsgate has made $1 million, but that's still not even the highest crowdfunding for a comic in the past 10 years.
I don't give a shit, though. It's graft. He's cheating the audience, and he's cheating the whole industry by doing that.
The worst way... The thing is, the only thing that he could do worse to fucking cheat the audience is to actually release his comic. Because as we see, like this, it's going to come out, and you're going to realize just how bad it is. And we completely called it. When Iron Sights came out, we reviewed Iron Sights, and then we said that Jawbreakers is going to come out, and it might be worse, but it will definitely be bad, and we completely called that. And here, as usual, Shitty Web Comics calling what Comicsgate is going to miss out on. Comicsgate's not sharp enough, not quick enough to call it as it's going to happen, but we're calling it right now. Cyberfrog is going to suck too, and that's not even a fucking risky prediction. That's obvious.
He's not tough enough for them out there, and not smart enough for them out here.
Yes.
But fucking, the key thing is, we called this shit on our wonderful Discord. Subscribe to us now if you get the chance. But I said it right away. It's like, he's a graft artist. He's afraid.
Ethan
he
is the thing
terrified.
is, people give Richard a lot of credit for not being an open graft artist, but now he's started another Indiegogo, so he is fucking just back to graft.
It gets worse than that. He's afraid now.
Yes. They both are, in fact. They're both clinging to each other desperately.
He's not afraid.
They're desperate.
Fucking Richard C. Meyer is not afraid enough. He's too stupid to be afraid.
He should be more afraid.
EVS is gay enough to be afraid.
Yes.
He's totally pants-pissed terrified of what's going to happen if he releases this comic.
Yes, if he actually releases
it.
Just imagine actually releasing the comic. And that's going to be funny, too.
Comic, like he's going to release his bowels into his own diaper.
Which I'm sure he's already done, because he's now 1 week away from a fucking another deadline. And when he misses that, we're just going to laugh at him some more. But he's also going to fully hand validation over to the dreaded SJWs, who now Comicsgate are just as bad as. They're the exact same. They behave the same. They're just as whiny and they're just as weak. Anyways, another thing that's really fucking embarrassing about this dumb fucking boring comic is the chick who just got killed almost off panel at the end. They like give a toast to her like it matters or like anyone knows who she was. And then the comic's just over. And that's it. That's the whole comic. Is they're like, oh, a toast to Gazagazi, who gives a shit. Who I think her name's actually a reference to some chick artist who had some relation to Comicsgate, but then she got attacked by Ethan's fucking war campaign. So and in fact they reported her Twitter and got it shut down. That's what Comicsgate did for them. And again, Richard is too stupid. Comicsgate's too dishonest as people. They are dishonest to their core as human beings. And then Richard is too stupid to admit any of this. That's where the movement finds itself. And this is the fucking kind of content they're putting out. Is this embarrassing, boring dog shit. And it's about to get worse for them. It's about to get a lot worse for them, as we've been calling. Everything that's been happening with Comicsgate, we've called it, and then it happened. One thing after fucking another. And it's going to keep happening, and we're just going to keep sitting by, enjoying just the failure of the weak Cape Cuck.
And we're all going to have a good, long laugh at your expense.
And again, you should have listened to Shitty Webcomics. But if you want to keep listening to Shitty Webcomics, first of all, I would actually recommend hanging out at our Discord, because that's where the smart people are in comics, instead of these weak, whiny bitches that make up Comicsgate, the Cape Cuck Cupcakes. Also, we did this review because our Patreon gives us money to, I guess, review comics. I don't know what we even get money for anyways, but we get money. We get money just for being us. So, give us some more money. And our superior comic, we have released a comic, I guess, Comic Liberty, the movement that was before Comicsgate, has also beat Cyberfrog in releasing a comic, and also has released a comic better than all of them. If you've hung around enough, you've already seen it and purchased it. I've kind of been thinking of printing it, but I don't even fucking know about print. Like, can I go to a print shop and just have them print out the pages and staple them? I don't know. Again, I'm not sure. I personally don't know about printing. My whole approach is that, as we've been saying, comics are bigger than the print industry. The medium is bigger. And whenever you point this out to Comicsgate, they just irrationally become angry and whiny. They have no clue what you're talking about. They just throw a sissy fit, which is, again, why they are weak as people, and always will be. They were already weak before any of this shit happened, before even the social justice thing. And that's why most people abandoned comics, because they didn't want to be associated with these fucking faggots who are reading superhero comics and pining for the 90s like fucking little bitches. So there, we finally reviewed this comic. I don't think I'm ever going to review anything by Richard C. Meyer, because he'll probably never release another comic. His career's over. Even if he makes another comic and releases it, I don't think anyone's going to even be reading it. Because now that people have finally seen, this was the big tent pole for him to release, and now people have seen it, and they're like, oh no, this is fucking terrible. And no one can even deny it. Even his own supporters and people in Comicsgate have nothing good to say about it. Nobody's been defending the comic. They've just been feigning excitement, like false excitement, trying to cover their disappointment. And people are hoping against hope that Cyberfrog's going to be the next thing, but it's not. Cyberfrog's going to be just another thud, and it may not actually come out because Ethan will. If Ethan releases the comic, he won't be able to keep the money. But if he never releases the comic, he can keep all the money and just keep stringing people along. He knows he can do that to people, and the people will allow him to do it. We've seen it happen going back to 2015. And we did a video about that too, of course, which Comicsgate doesn't want you to hear. Anyways, yeah, make sure to unlike, reshare, uncomment, unsubscribe, unhit the bell for re-notifications. Donate to the Patreon for no reason. We're just going to play Fallout 76. That's all we're going to do from now on. We're not going to fucking review these gay-ass comics. We're just going to play some shitty games.